Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker, BTA Fridays. Good to see you as always, JBook.
Hey, happy Friday to you, my friend.
Happy Friday. We've got a great show for you guys. We're going to start off briefly. JBook and I are going to give our portal grades for the Buckeyes. What grade do we give the Buckeyes? They've now brought in 17, 18 if you count the long snapper. They got a punter yesterday, probably more of a depth piece. We'll see. At least he'll at least compete with Joe McGuire for that job. And then we're going to get to some other stuff. The Buckeyes getting older. As far as going after transfer. And that looks to be their strategy moving forward. How does that affect high school recruiting in future seasons? And we'll end the show talking about the Darien Mensah situation at Duke. It is getting more interesting by the minute. All right, sir, let's start with our portal grades. As you look at this, and they're not necessarily done yet, but so far, what grade would you give the Buckeyes as far as their arrivals in the portal?
I would give it a B plus, Dave. I don't think it's the high end talent that we saw a few years back with the Judkins and Caleb Downs, those type of guys. But I do think these are guys that are going to be plug and play type of guys that will be able to contribute early. Obviously, getting the kicker was like the big boom for everybody. Getting a punter who's been able to rock a couple 60-yarders. I think that right there was a little bit of a cherry on the top. So to me, I think a B plus is solid. When you look at this roster, I think PFS did a video yesterday, 2 days ago. They actually have Ohio State rated as the best safety group in the country going into next year, even with losing Caleb Downs with the portal additions. So that right there should tell you that the additions that they got on the back end with the return of Jalen McClain, you should be pretty solid there. I still think that maybe they might be one corner short, Dave. That's just my opinion, because if something happens as far as injuries, you're still very thin. You're going to be banking on some of these freshmen coming in and being able to play right away. So hopefully that everything, fingers crossed, everybody stays healthy. I would have liked to seen at least one more true corner come in through the portal, but overall B plus in my book.
That's exactly what I wrote down was B plus. Imagine that. It feels like our predictions when we're like pretty much on the money. Yeah, I wrote down B plus, and I would have liked to see another D tackle. Now they did a good job. They did get two. I feel like I'm being greedy. They got John Walker. They got James Smith. So they got the one tech and the three tech. You got Edric coming back. You got Will Smith Jr. You got Jason Moore. I still would have liked to see another D tackle. And you're right. I think with corner, maybe even with safety, they're going to need at least one, maybe two of those true freshmen to be on the two deep, just like Devin Sanchez was last year. Maybe a Jay Timmons can make the two deep. Jordan Thomas, maybe some of those safeties like Blaine Bradford can round out the two deep. We'll see what happens there, because they're going to need some of those freshman DB to play. And I have the exact same grade, B plus. All right. Speaking of freshmen,
speaking of predictions,
yep,
we both said it last week. Our predictions hit. Indiana. Hey, we said Indiana money line, but Miami plus 8.5 on the spread. That was money in the bank.
That was, and I stayed away from the money line because I wasn't getting any value there. I did do it wasn't a large bet, but point spread bet on Miami. I was glad that Indiana won. I was glad Miami covered, so I had a little extra money in my pocket, and I'm glad that for the show's purposes that our prediction rang true.
I had to bring it up. I was thinking to myself as it was playing out. I was like, Dave and I both nailed that one.
Heck yeah, we say yeah. Sometimes I get one right. You get them right a lot. All right, so here we go. Speaking of high school recruiting, this will be the one and only time they signed 28 kids in a class. They didn't expect as many departures as what they had, but yeah. So getting 28 kids in here, they want to get older. Urban Meyer talked about this. I know that you know a lot more about this. Urban Meyer was saying, and we've talked about this, the Buckeyes are clearly trying to get older. Look what they're doing in the transfer portal. They're going after guys that are productive and are older for the most part. Talk about that a little bit, and then what do you think that means for the future of high school recruiting?
Yeah, I had tweeted it out yesterday. It was on Urban Meyer's podcast with his Fox crew, and Urban said he spoke to Ryan Day, and basically Ryan Day confirmed to him the day of the national championship game that Ohio State, they're in the business of trying to get older. They want to, as Urban said, they want to get grown-ass men in the locker room as opposed to coaching up a bunch of 18-year-olds. And I was thinking to myself, Dave, and you look at the Miami linebacker that just got awarded supposedly another year, that's coming back next year. Let me pull up his name here. And I'm thinking to myself, I go, you look at him, Muhammad Toure, he enrolled at Rutgers in 2019. He was a 2018 commit. And so you're looking at this linebacker who's going to be 26 years old on the field. And you look at a guy like Bo Jackson, who's 18 years old, and you're talking about an 18-year-old meeting a 26-year-old grown man in the A gap trying to pick up a blitz, and you're saying, okay, a guy who's been in college for 7 years going up against a true freshman running back, that is clearly an advantage when you have a handful of guys who've been in college for that long. That's grown man strength, Dave. And Urban Meyer talked about it. He said, hey, that's the blueprint. We've seen it for the last 3 years. The squads that are the oldest have won the national championship. Now, on the flip side, and I'm curious to get your point, and there were a lot of comments on the post that have put out yesterday. There are a lot of people saying that they think Ryan Day's being a little too reactionary because he believes that wasn't they believe that wasn't Ohio State's issue. They believe it was more of an offensive issue and the play calling and the decision to play slow in their strategy as opposed to being an older team. If they would have played their own game, then a lot of people wouldn't be trending in this direction to saying, hey, we need to go and find a bunch of older guys, because you would have been talking about an Ohio State team that probably would have been going back to back if Ohio State would have played their game. I'm curious to get your opinion on that take.
Yeah, there's definitely some validity to that, a lot of validity, because I thought they should just, they were their own worst enemy on offense. And for a while, we were all like, oh, they're playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. Oh, no. Yeah. As it turns out, they were playing Go Fish, because it was like, oh, they're saving, something for the postseason. They're less wear and tear. They saved an entire game worth of reps for the guys. It's like, okay. And then they just got physically manhandled the last 2 games. I mean, I think in retrospect, losing by 3 due to a missed chip shot field goal against the national champs in their home state, maybe not as terrible as I thought in the moment. Not that I thought it was terrible. I respected Indiana, but the Miami game, I still shake my head about that. And I think Miami's a good team. Here's one thing I would push back on. It's not, part of me thinks it is an overreaction to what Cignetti did. But you look at last year, the previous year, 2024, when the Buckeyes won the national championship, they had maybe the oldest team I can remember at Ohio State, especially guys that typically would have gone into the NFL, even knowing they weren't first-round picks, but because of NIL, they came back. And I think the brotherhood was a big part of that. Was NIL the biggest part of it? Yes. Without the money, they're not coming back. But like all those guys that came back, like Tyleek and Donovan Jackson and like JT and Jack, all those guys that came back, it was awesome. Travion, I could go on and on and on. They had a really old team and they won the national championship. So I think it's a little bit of both, to be fair.
Yeah, because some people make the arguments like, hey, Ohio State, what you're doing is not necessarily the wrong way to go about it. You had a loaded roster. You have 5 first-rounders. It's not a talent issue. It's not a player and personnel issue. It was a coaching issue to the reason why you didn't go back-to-back. Whereas a lot of people are saying that the edge was because of players being older, and Ohio State's now in the business of we're going to get older. So the question is, what does that do to high school recruiting? I think it's going to kill, personally, the combination of Indiana winning the national championship with these kids transferring after 1 year, after getting a payday. You combine those 2 things, I think that's going to kill the high school recruiting. Not necessarily kill it in the sense that teams are not going to recruit high school players, but those kids that are 4-star guys that are like 200, 300 ranked guys, they're not going to command like the huge amount of money that you saw in these last 2 cycles. Teams are going to refuse to get into bidding wars with those guys. This just my opinion. The smart play would be, and you almost treat it like NCAA football. Go after your 10 to 15 guys that you love. Use your resources and say, hey, we're going to splurge on these 10 to 15 guys that we love, that we absolutely think can see the field right away. Spend your money on them and then circle back for your diamond in the roughs, maybe 4, 5, 6 local guys that are willing to be Buckeyes, maybe a little patient, wants to be developed, and have always dreamt of being a Buckeye. And now you're talking about a class of maybe 16 to 18, and 18 might be pushing it, Dave,
Right.
in today's age. Now you bank your resources for your war chest, for the portal, and then you come back around and say, hey, we got 15 extra spots for portal guys, and we're going to go and get some old heads that have a lot of experience, and we're going to plug and play that way. The days of paying kids and getting in bidding wars for them to commit straight out of high school, and then they turn around and transfer 1 year without playing a down, and you got 0 investment return from that kid, those days are over. And those kids who did that, they essentially ruined the market for their future kids.
Man, I thought we were done with COVID years. Boy, I was wrong. I mean, even Ohio State's benefiting. The tight end they got from Northwestern, Welsing. Welsing didn't really – he was at Northwestern for 6 years, right? This will be his 7th year. He didn't really do anything his first 5 years. He barely played. And then he had a really good year, pretty good year as a 6th-year senior. Now he's going to be a 7th-year senior. So he had a COVID year, a regular redshirt year, and a medical redshirt year. Will now be a 7th-year senior. Yeah, I know a lot of people are ready. We had Emily in the chat. A lot of people are ready to get rid of the – come on. Are we really doing 7th and 8th-year seniors still?
Right.
Like, it reminds me when I was a little kid, my dad would take me to Ohio State games. I'd see these funny shirts, and one that I always liked was Ohio State, the best 7 or 8 years of your life.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, there should be 1 redshirt year and 1 medical year. After that, if you got hurt, sorry, kid. I mean, I wish you the best of luck. Some of these kids need to get into the workforce, man, and start paying some taxes. Like, like at this point, like you've been in, like this kid from Miami, like you've been in college since 2019. Like, what are we doing here? And then here's the thing: that what's fascinating, Dave. You talk about the NFL. What does the NFL say? You need to be in college for 3 years for player safety because they don't want 18-year-olds going up against 25 and 26-year-old grown men, 27-year-old grown men. Well, what has this turned into in college football? You got 18-year-olds going up against 25, 26-year-old grown men because these kids are in here getting double masters because they cannot get out into the workforce. Because what's the quarterback? TJ Finley's like on his 9th or 10th school.
Oh God, he's still around too. My goodness.
Yeah, he got granted another year.
I knew last year we're going to still have some COVID year guys, but I thought this would be the first season where we didn't have COVID year guys. And they're like, well, hold my mask. We have a COVID year. Yeah, it's overboard. I think I'm with you. And I think what they're going to do eventually is just get rid of red shirts and just say you have 5 years. You got 5 years. They've already moved it back where you can play 9 games in the regular season and then still play in the postseason. More than that, and it still counts as a red shirt. You might as well just get rid of red shirts. It says 5 to play 5. Let's go.
Mike Schaefer in the chat said, "What's wrong with being in college for 7 years?" Hey, man, college is fun. That's some of the best time in your life, man. But you can't be out here fielding a whole roster of Van Wilders and trying to to win a national championship every single year.
Like
after a while, you have to pull the plug on these 25 and 26-year-olds.
Well, we're going to need some add to the workforce. I mean, yeah, they're paying taxes on their NIL, but we need them to get out here and add to the workforce and let these 18, 19-year-olds come in here and take. I've read this argument. It makes a lot of sense. In all seriousness, these guys are 7th-year seniors and 8th-year seniors, and I mean they're taking a spot from a younger guy who would be there, and people think that's unfair. It's like, why are you here for 8 years? But yeah, would being in college 7 years be fun? Yeah, I was in college for 5 years.
Well, considering Carson Beck said in the national championship interviews that he wasn't taking classes.
Like Buckeye fan 084. He's like, a lot of people go to college for 7 years. They're called doctors. Yes. Lawyers and doctors. Yes, they do have to. Yeah. If you're just getting like a communications degree and you're in college for 7 years, it's like, oh boy, that's some Animal House.
I mean,
stuff for you.
Listen,
right there.
I'm not gonna lie, Dave. If I was a college kid and I'm being paid millions of dollars, I don't have to go to school. Like Carson Beck was saying, like, hey, I haven't went to school in 2 years, class in 2 years. Like, and all you're doing, you're getting paid ridiculous amount of money, and you just go and play football. And on top of that, you're limited time because the NCAA only allows you a certain amount of hours that's required. You're living a good life, man. You the big man on campus. Like, hey, you rolling around living the life of luxury. Like your school's paid for. Like, you just probably need to show up for basket weaving, some tennis classes just to stay minimally eligible.
An online class here and there, and you're right. Everything else would be like athletic related. I took racquetball twice in college.
I did too. I took racquetball like my last year because I was already pretty much done, and I needed a full set of classes just to stay with my full academics. Scholarship and everything, and so I just needed a full schedule. And so my last year, man, it was like party central at OU. So I was like racquetball. I think I took like golf or something like that, and then I took, I don't know, some type of fun, just like fun classes, just to enjoy like my last year, my senior year.
Oh man, just being at Ohio University, period, would be funny if you're like, you have like a class load that maybe isn't your favorite, just to be there and just chill out for a year. Gosh, yeah. I don't know how you. Well, now I know how you left. I know where you live now. And weekends like this, you're definitely glad you live there. We're just going to get pounded with snow throughout Ohio, especially Saturday into Sunday morning. Ugh. All right.
I feel for you guys. Y'all stay safe out there, man.
We're going to get it. I mean, Sunday could get pretty messy. All right. Darien Mensah, you and I were both like talking about this on Twitter last night. I quote tweeted you. I was like, oh, third uncle strike again. It's probably his agent is the one to blame here. I don't know for sure. I mean, it's ultimately on Darien Mensah. He just signed a $4 million to be Duke's quarterback. And obviously Miami, who doesn't give a crap. They're tamper left and right. Everybody tampers, but I think Miami takes it to the next level. They obviously offered this kid more, probably $2 million more. So in one respect, I understand if you're Darien Mensah, you're like, there's no rules. You're going to give me $2 million more. I'm never going to make this much in the NFL, probably. Maybe he will. I don't know. So I understand it from that perspective, but you just signed with Duke. And now with this, if people haven't followed it, the judge ruled that like he can't enroll at a new university. This is like he has gone in front of a judge already. So this is not like Xavier Lucas because Duke is suing him. Duke's not suing Miami. Duke is directly suing him, just like Washington was going to do with Damon Williams Jr. He was like, okay, I'll come back. So now we're seeing the schools go directly after the players who have signed these contracts. And people say, well, wait a minute, they're not employees. They're not enforceable contracts. You don't have to be an employee to have an enforceable contract. Like I had a guy put a new fence in last summer. I had to sign a contract with that guy. Like if he breached the contract, I paid him and he didn't finish, then I could sue him and win. Or he did a good job and I decide I don't want to pay you. He would sue me and win. He's not my employee. He's an independent contractor. So these contracts are enforceable, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think he picked the wrong battle going against Duke attorneys.
That's a good point.
I think that's the wrong set of people to be messing around with. On top of that, it's taken up in a superior court in North Carolina. So chances are it's probably going to rule in favor of Duke here. And they were smart not to specifically name Miami in their lawsuit. And I think it's a situation to where the judge ruled Duke they were forced to allow him to enter the portal. However, he's not allowed to go to a school. He's not allowed to sign NIL deals because Duke still holds his rights. So you and I joke, it's basically like the Dr. Pepper commercial. The kid is stuck in the portal. He can't get out the portal unless he makes amends with Duke and decides to go back like the Washington kid did. But it's fascinating to see because this could set the precedent. I think they have another hearing on February 2nd here. And if Duke wins this next hearing here, I think it's going to set the table for what happens next. But yeah, leave it to Miami to get in these type of battles here. If you're the ACC, though, how do you sit idly by? And I understand, like, Miami's now your darling because they made the national championship and they're propping up the ACC. But at what point, if you're the ACC, do you sit by and go and say, hey, man, you can't be doing our own members like this, like the own league members and just poaching their quarterback. And the way they did it was dirtball because when they got Mensah, it was like at the 12th hour.
Right.
So it left zero room for Duke to maneuver and go get another high-end quarterback. There's no way that they're going to be able to replace Mensah with a similar type of caliber quarterback at that type of point because they can't turn around and say, okay, we're losing him. Let's go and try to find someone else who's comparable. So Miami really put the screws to Duke. And it would be fascinating to see how this rules out. But I think he made a big mistake messing around with Duke attorneys here.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Yeah, man. I mean, if I had to bet, I bet eventually it'll work out well for the young man as far as monetarily. But can you imagine if it stays this way and he's not allowed to enroll anywhere else? Duke says we don't want you back after you pulled that stunt, and he's out $4 million. Like,
yeah,
wow. All right, but let's finish the show with this. I did want to touch on the Darien Mensah thing because it's just, I mean, these are the type of stories that we're going to see more and more of, in my opinion. And it started with Xavier Lucas, but I think Wisconsin didn't want to look petty. I think that's why they didn't sue Xavier Lucas himself. They went after Miami. It's still pending for tampering. Good luck with that, unless there's a paper trail. But I think that's what Wisconsin, they didn't want to go after the kid and be like the first one to do that. But now with Washington doing it and now Duke doing it, the genie's out of the bottle, man. Kids are going to be getting sued if they breach these contracts. All right. Before I let you go, I mean, we talked about I want to circle back to the transfer portal real quick. You know, there's some guys that I really like that they got that maybe don't get a lot of public. I think Terry Moore is an absolute great get, you know, and I like the D lineman from Alabama. I do wonder about John Walker. I like getting John Walker, but, you know, is he a guy that we like because he was a really highly rated recruit? Because he wasn't that great at UCF, but I still like getting him. Jacoby Jackson I thought was a good get. Obviously Connor Hawkins, the kicker, is the primo win. But go through some of the guys, you know, 2 or 3 or more of the guys that are your favorite gets from the portal for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think the Parker wide receiver kid from LSU, I think he brings something to the table that was missing at the wide receiver position, which is an explosive guy who's going to be able to take maybe a 5-yard slant, 20 yards in that slot position. I think it would be fascinating to see how he operates with Ennis. Will they move him to the slot? Because I feel like he will be operating more in the slot. So I think he brings a little bit more speed to the table. And that's the thing with them. The running back that they got from Florida, I think he is going to be a very nice complementary back to Bo Jackson. He's not going to be your starter, but he brings a level of physicality, some speed to the table, a change of pace back that's going to be able to move some change. He's going to be someone that probably we were thinking that Donaldson was more of, that someone who's going to be able to get those 1 to 2 yards that we were looking at Donaldson with his size and said, that's supposed to be your short yardage guy. Maybe the Florida running back that's coming in could be that guy. And you mentioned the safeties. I think those two will definitely provide some veteran leadership on the back end that was definitely missing after losing Caleb Downs to the draft.
I lied to you real quick, and we do have a request from a few people, including James on Facebook. OC, I feel like Ryan Day has some people in mind, obviously, but it's interesting it hasn't happened yet. I thought it would happen by now, so maybe he's waiting for somebody who's still in the playoffs in the NFL. I don't know. What do you make of that?
I don't know, man. This one's a head scratcher right now. You would have thought that it would have been done by now, or at least a little bit more traction hearing about it right now. But yeah, this one right here is fascinating. I'm curious if he's doing something outside of the box, a little unorthodox compared to what we've traditionally seen from Ryan Day. So the way things are dragging out, I'm curious to see if things are a little different than what we've seen in the past.
I love all these sarcasm. We have a thread on Bucknuts is dripping with sarcasm. This, like, Brian's probably one of our members, because he's like, how about Sean McVay? Yeah, let's just get the Rams head coach who might win his second Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator. I love it. I was like, well, come on. We can't have this conversation without mentioning John Gruden. John Gruden's coming here as offensive coordinator. All right. Jonah Booker, great stuff as always. Thank you, Jay.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Next week. All right. Thanks, as always, to JBook. Great stuff. Always enjoy doing the shows with him on Friday. Not just because he brings in a super large live audience, which he does. And thanks to our live audience. Thanks to everybody who's listening to the show, the audio only version of the show. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Thanks again to JBook. Thanks to all of you. Hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend. If you're in Ohio, get that shovel ready, or hopefully have a snow blower, or even a snowmobile, then you can go have some fun in it. But yeah, it's going to be we're going to get hammered with some snow this weekend in the Buckeye State. All right. Thanks to JBook. Thanks to all of you guys. Hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend. Go Bucks.